Happy game day, everybody, and welcome into GameQuest, the Volquest.com game day podcast. I am Eric Cain, normally having Grant Ramey along for the ride, but he is out a couple of days this week, so it's going to be me and VFL quarterback Jarrett Guarantano for an extended period of time today. I don't think anybody's complaining about that. Going to look into a whole lot of things in this game. Tennessee, New Mexico State. It's homecoming on the Hill. It's the first time Tennessee's getting back after it after the disappointing loss to Oklahoma. Again, and Jarrett and I will talk about this. It's a game that kind of feels like it's got no juice to it, but it is a game that I think is, bigger than what the opponent is, and I'll explain that here in just a moment. Obviously, you know what's coming down the pipe. You got Florida in the swamp, and then you got Vanderbilt, where Tennessee can play spoilers at home to conclude the regular season. So, going to discuss a bevy of topics here today, get you set for kickoff. Again, Tennessee back out on the field against the Aggies of New Mexico State. That game is coming up at 4:15 Eastern Time. Neyland Stadium. The game will be televised on the SEC Network, and GameQuest is presented by the great people over at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Free consultation if you dial this phone number today. That is 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185. You can check them out online as well at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP.com. Spivey, King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. All right, going to bring on the VFL quarterback, contributor to Volquest.com this season. That is Jarrett Guarantano, done an awesome job. Jarrett, I was kind of saying there in the open, and appreciate you joining us. This game doesn't have a whole lot of juice. You've played in these late non-conference November games before. Different points in time. Tennessee maybe are doing well. Tennessee might have been having a season to forget. Obviously, Tennessee's on the outside looking into the playoff picture. But it's another opportunity, and more than anything, it's a chance to get back out there and play, because the last taste you have in your mouth, disappointment to Oklahoma, then you had a bye week, and again, not a lot of juice this week, but a chance to get out there and go play and kind of change the last football thing that's on your mind, and should be able to do it pretty convincingly against New Mexico State.
Right. I think that there's still a lot to play for, Eric, right? We talked about certain things, unfortunately, maybe not with the playoffs, but just being able to say that you're a 10-win football team in the SEC, being able to say that you have the leading receiver or leading quarterback in the SEC, like those are really good coaching points and recruiting points going into the end of the season. And just being able to have those certain guys at the top of those leaderboards are imperative. So with this game, of course, you want to be able to go out there and win convincingly. The thing that I'm looking forward to most is the younger guys playing, being able to see George and Jake play some quarterback, being able to see some of the running backs or wide receivers we haven't seen yet, some of the younger guys. But with that being said, I'd also love having those guys that need the stats and need those things going into the later part of the year for awards purposes to be able to sustain those things.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Two things that I definitely want to hit on. I want to hit on something that, end of the day, wins, losses are the only thing that matters, right? But there are some stats that would be really cool for Tennessee to accomplish this season individually and team-wise, that a game like this you can really utilize to get closer to those milestones, right? And there's some young players that I want to discuss in a game like this that should get a whole lot of run. But before we get into those, I feel like at the basis, like, again, Oklahoma disappointment, you got Florida coming up, right? You had a bye week, and it's been a long time. Tennessee needs to feel good about itself. Tennessee needs to get some momentum. Tennessee needs to feel itself and go down to the swamp. And I understand Florida. We'll talk about Florida next week, but Florida is, win-loss wise, not a good football team. Doesn't have a head coach right now. Cutter Boley just bullied them the other night. It's a team that's really going through it. Having said that, it's a place Tennessee just doesn't win at and hasn't since 2003. It's one of your rivals. A chance to do something you haven't done in quite some time. And so Tennessee's going to be up for that game, no doubt. Florida's going to give Tennessee its best chance, and they might look like the '85 Bears. Who knows? But who in this game on Saturday today against New Mexico State needs to maybe find some confidence again, or maybe just needs to keep it rolling, right? I feel like this is the game, and you can speak to it from experience, to where it's like, all right, we know we're the better team. We know this team's not very good, but we're still going to go out there. We're going to have fun. We're going to feel good about themselves, and maybe that can carry on into next week when you need every little advantage you can get.
Right. I think the biggest chance that we have on Saturday is just to get our run game going again. I think that when we were playing Oklahoma, unfortunately, they had a really good D-line, but there was opportunities for us to hit big runs, and we just weren't able to sustain a block one more second, or we weren't able to get to the second level on a double team. So just being able to kind of solidify this run game, getting Bishop going, being able just to sit there and look at the stat sheet at the end of the day and sit there and say, like, all right, we were able to run the football for what we've been doing majority of the season at maybe 5-6 yards a pop and sustaining that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that offensive line play really challenge themselves this week, especially coming off of that loss from Oklahoma a couple weeks ago, where they had a really good defensive line, right? We knew how good their defense was, and it was somewhat underwhelming, I would say, from a standpoint of offensive play when you look at the amount of points scored. But there was also a lot of positives. So I'm just looking for a really sound football game on Saturday, and it'll be a tough couple of weeks. Also, I mean, we talked about Florida. Florida didn't play too well against Kentucky, right? But they almost beat Georgia the week before, and that's a rivalry game. So we know that we're going to get Florida's best shot no matter what their record is. So being able to play a clean football game on Saturday should be the most important thing for the Vols.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about the run game. And Deshaun Bishop, what a story he is. And Joey Aguilar, in my opinion, is one of the best stories in college football. I think Jesse Perry on the offensive line is a really good story. But for Deshaun, the local prospect, I covered his entire high school career. I mean, he was one of the best the state's ever had. And I remember sitting there, and Purdue was giving him some love. I think he was committed to Coastal Carolina. I think Pitt looked around there a little bit. And of course, he was always, wanting to go to Tennessee. And it was one of those, well, is Tennessee going to take him? Is Tennessee going to have a spot for him? Is Tennessee going to give him a scholarship? Ultimately, Deshaun bet on himself. He came here and walked on, and he performed really well in spring, performed really well in fall camp. Then he got hurt. And then he bet on himself again. He did enter the transfer portal. He stayed, came back, and worked. And last year he was the second string guy to Dylan Sampson, and he entered spring and he was the guy. And then I just love seeing the evolution of his story. He just gets better and better. And man, he's grounded. He's got such a great head on his shoulders. So I loved the Deshaun Bishop story. And in a game like this, we can really kind of get him going again because he's had a fine year. 9 touchdowns. I think he's like 6th in the SEC in rushing. But in those games against Oklahoma, which has a very good defense, those games against Alabama, where he got it going there in the second half, it would be great to see Tennessee's run game with Deshaun Bishop leading the way really kind of dominate this game. And so you can get back to doing what Tennessee's done, and that's run the football effectively over the course of the Josh Heupel era. Because you're going to need to run the football next week for sure.
Yeah, statistically, I mean, Bishop's, I think, one of the highest leaders in yards per carry in all of the SEC. So when you're looking at how well he's played compared to what his carries are to the rest of the SEC, he's really one of the top backs. And it would be super nice. I mean, you talked about his journey, and you could see what type of leader that he is going into this game, just being able to give him more carries than usual and getting him going towards the end of the season and helping him get to that 1,000-yard mark. Of course, we talked about that he sustained some injuries. I mean, he didn't play as much versus Alabama. He had left the previous game a little bit earlier. I mean, he missed the whole fourth quarter, I think, against Arkansas. So just being able to get him some carries and getting him feeling good, and I think he deserves it, right? We talked about how great of a leader he is, and it'd be awesome to see him have a great day and great showing on Saturday.
6.7 yards per carry. And Jarrett, you're exactly right. He leads the SEC, 6.7 yards per carry. That is 0.2 better than Mike Washington, who was a former New Mexico State tailback, as was Seth McGowan of Kentucky. Diego Pavia was the former quarterback there 2 years ago. Star Thomas was a running back there 2 years. There's New Mexico State guys all across the SEC. But
they would be loaded right now if all those guys stayed.
Yeah, they would.
And I mean, that's such a good recruiting point too, right? Just for their aspect, they're like, just let's get the best players that we possibly can, and telling these guys like, hey, just come get film and let's have a really good season. And look at these guys that have gone on to play in SEC and play big time football. Use us as your staple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was talking to Star Thomas a couple weeks ago because I guess they were playing. It might have been Kentucky. I think there's a starter on the offensive line from Kentucky that also came from New Mexico State. And I asked him, I was like, did you play with the running back? He's like, no, I was there the year before, but I played with whatever the offensive lineman's name was. And, I was there with Pavia, that guy, and Mike Washington was also there at the time. It's weird. Like New Mexico State last year, the offense was not good, but they had 2 Conference USA tailbacks in McGowan and Washington. And, of course, the Power 4 program just go and pick from there. So it is a good story for sure in terms of recruiting. Like if you're kind of a tweener coming out of high school, like Just call it what it is. Come here, we'll develop you for a couple of years. Then hey, you might get your shot in the SEC. We don't want to lose you,
Right.
but kind of leaning into that aspect as well. Another area where I think Tennessee could really use some confidence is on the offensive line. Going back to the run game, not running it as effectively. The offensive line has protected Joey Aguilar pretty good overall. But the last couple of games, one sack against Georgia or Kentucky, but 4 sacks against Alabama, and I think they gave up 3 or 4 against Oklahoma. Those are really good defenses, right? And that happens. I feel like Tennessee's offensive line, David Sanders being more of the starting right tackle now, Jesse Perry bumping inside, playing more guard. Where is he health wise? He got banged up a little bit against Oklahoma. Is it going to be Perry and Sanders at right tackle and maybe more Shane Morrow at guard? Any way you want to spend it, I think this offensive line has played so well this year, but it could also use a little bit of a confidence boost, heading into Florida. So I think a game like this, they should just go out and dominate and should, score as many points as they want to. I feel like this type of game is kind of bigger than the opponent in that respect as well for the guys up front.
Right, and we've seen over the course of the year sometimes of when they've got in trouble, right? Late pressures or late movement from the D-line, linebackers, and when you're going in a hurry-up offense, sometimes it's kind of hard to communicate and pick those things up from an offensive line perspective with a lot of moving pieces. So it'll be imperative for these guys to make sure that they're communicating well, they're finding their mic points well. I mean, one of the bigger plays in Oklahoma, I felt like David Sanders on tape, he was kind of speaking on what his assignment was or where they should be going, and unfortunately, it led to a sack fumble that was a touchdown on the return. So just being able to knock those kinks out. And like you said, this is an opportunity for these guys, right? This is an opportunity for David Sanders to get a lot more reps going into his sophomore campaign next year. So it'll be really nice and really good to watch them improve and work on the certain things that they need to on Saturday.
It's and if you're in that locker room, you can't have this mindset, but we're not. I'm in the media, and so we can look ahead and kind of call it what it is. New Mexico State's defense compared to where it was last year, I mean, significantly better. But again, Tennessee's going to have its way. It's a payday game. Tennessee can score and win by as much as it wants to. So these non-conference cupcake games in November, which might be going away with the SEC going to non-conference games, kind of the way they do the schedule.
Right.
In this era, Jarrett, I mean, it's a chance to show some love to the young guys that you want to be a part of this team moving forward. I mean, we're in an era to where it's free agency every single year. You have to re-recruit your roster, for better or worse, just kind of where you are. I think that it's so annoying if you're a coach and all that. But, you mentioned some of the young quarterbacks, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But like a lot, Bennett Warren at tackle, Jaden Harm at linebacker, some of these young running backs, DeJuan Morris, Jeremiah's Hurd at tackle. I mean, there's several other players. Like, I think that they need to get some legit extended run in this game, because I'm not saying those guys are going to the portal, but you just never know. Like, but those are some guys, I don't want to speak for the coaches, but like, you feel like those guys can play and you don't want to lose them. You can utilize this type of game in November to kind of say, hey man, we love you, we value you, like, let's get you some run, let's evaluate you some more. To whereas if you don't get a whole lot of run, it's kind of like, man, I'm out of here. Again, I'm thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead, but like, I feel like these types of games in this era are also kind of utilized for that specific purpose as well.
Right. And you look at also some of the younger guys that might have had tougher games or tougher times, like our tight end that unfortunately had that drop pass on the 4th and 1, being able to get him going a little bit and maybe getting him the ball a couple of times and helping him understand how big of a player and how key of a component he can be going forward. So it's really important, like you said, with the amount that there's players transferring in the NCAA, for them to be able to get reps and being able to understand how well they can fit in this offense and that their time just isn't now, it is going to be tough for them to sit there and stay just because of the culture, right? Everybody wants to play right now. But there's so many younger players that need the film, that need to understand what it's like for in-game experience. So hopefully we're able to put up a lot of points and get the starters out early, right? Have a good showing and get these younger guys some reps so they can understand how to be coached and maybe talk to in a meeting room. Because when you're sitting in the meeting rooms, most of the time, the starters are the only ones getting talked to, right? And that's just how it goes. And if there's any other time where the coaches can talk to the younger guys throughout the day, maybe for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, when they can harp on some of their development. But if not, it's really about the starters. So being able to watch game tape of yourself, that's a whole nother entity and another component that'll be really good for these guys that haven't played very much.
Let's look at some stats. You brought this up earlier. We'll start with Joey Aguilar. Through 9 games, he is leading the SEC in passing yards. He's got 2,737. Ty Simpson, who is a Heisman frontrunner, has 2,461. Joey Aguilar and Ty Simpson are tied with Diego Pavia with the conference's lead with 21 touchdowns. It's been a really good year for Joey. He doesn't have to play 4 quarters to even impress those numbers. I mean, he can throw 3 touchdowns and throw for, over 200 yards, in the first half of a game like this and still stay on pace. But you do look at the rushing numbers, what we mentioned. Tennessee, is on pace currently to have like 2,300 yards on the ground this year, which is a really good year, right? But the standard for Josh Heupel through 4 years, they've gotten 2,500 every year. Yeah. And so unless you have a Herculean effort, you're probably not going to get that plateau. But you can take a ginormous step in a game like this. And then, of course, receiving, Chris Brazzell leads the SEC with 8, or he's tied for the SEC lead with 808 receiving yards. He leads the SEC with 8 receiving touchdowns. What an opportunity for not only him, but Braylon Staley, who's 4th in the league with 703 receiving yards. Tennessee, let's put this in perspective here. Tennessee's had a lot of great offenses, a lot of great quarterbacks, a lot of great receivers throughout its history. Tennessee has never had 2 1,000-yard receivers in the same season. You're close right now. And in a game like this, you can just ball out, feed those guys, and get them on the doorstep to go and accomplish that milestone against Florida and against Vanderbilt, and, of course, a bowl game as well. If Staley will play in a bowl game, I don't know about Brazzell. But point is, win-loss is the most important thing. But when you look at some of these stats and milestones, I mean, Tennessee's on the doorstep of a couple, specifically those receiving ones. And, I mean, you get a couple 100-yard games in this game, and you're in really good position to make Tennessee history.
Yeah, and I completely got lost. I was thinking about it from an NFL standpoint and thinking like, all right, we only have 3 games left, including this next one. I completely forgot about the bowl game. So yeah, all these stats and being able to sit there and say, all right, we have 3 guys within the top 10 in receiving yards, right? Being able to sit there and say that we have 4 games left, who knows what the feat that they'll be able to accomplish, right? And even if Matthews was to get to 800 or Staley was to get to 900, those are excellent football seasons, right? For younger players especially. So there's so much to keep playing for. And for these younger guys, of course, wins matter, but wide receivers, you're always looking at your stats. You're always looking at your yards, catches, whatever it is. Those guys want to go complete this season off the right way. And what an opportunity that they have this week and the games going forward. Of course, we know Florida will be a different game, right? It'll be definitely more contested than what Florida's put out. Vanderbilt will be an amazing game, probably the best Tennessee-Vanderbilt game to date, maybe in the history of the universities, right, with how good these football teams are. And bowl game wise, we probably should get a really good bowl team, a really good bowl game going against a team that's probably a 9, 8, 9 win team, whether that's in the Big Ten or ACC. So there's a lot of really good opportunities for these guys going forward. And from the standpoint of recruiting, wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, they like to see guys putting up stats and numbers because they envision themselves doing that as well.
GameQuest is presented by the great people over at Spivey, Cain and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is T&N Trial Lawyers. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, and personal injury, examples of which can be DUI, assault, divorce, custody, alimony, personal injury such as car wrecks or accidents. With over 80 years of combined experience, Spivey, Cain and Spivey LLP provides representation throughout state and federal courts in Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. The practice has been in place for 43 years, this specific partnership forming in 2012, while also having partners who are energized for today's modern legal demands. They practice primarily in Northeast Tennessee, the Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington County, and surrounding areas. The firm has won multiple awards and have attorneys who have been rated by super lawyers in the Mid-South with real trial experience. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or you've been accused of a crime, Spivey, Cain and Spivey LLP, they can help you. Go check them out today at 142 Cherokee Street in Kingsport, Tennessee. Pick up the phone for a free consultation. 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185. You can check them out online as well. It's Spivey, Cain and Spivey LLP.com. Spivey, Cain and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is T&N Trial Lawyers. When first unwrapping your Whataburger, you find yourself awestruck by what's right in front of you. Hot, fresh, made to order on a 5-inch toasted bun, 100% never frozen American beef patty, grilled to perfection, melty cheese, crisp and chopped veggies and mustard. It may look like more of art than food. Some even consider it a masterpiece. They're not wrong. Whataburger, it is just the way you like it. And when you rep your team, don't stop at just the jersey. Dollar Shave Club's collegiate razor handles combine grooming with glory, letting students, grads, and fans show their school spirit in style. From the sink to the stadium, shave with school pride. Visit dollarshaveclub.com, dollarshaveclub.com. One more time, that is dollarshaveclub.com to grab your college handle today, and go Vols. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Kelsey Pope was asked a couple years ago, like, what's your pitch to recruits? And he's like, why wouldn't you want to? Or no, what's your pitch to a transfer wide receiver? Like, why wouldn't you want to come here? I mean, look at what we do. I mean, proof's in the pudding, right? And this year, especially with that high flying offense back, the passing attack at least, it's been a whole lot of fun to watch. All right, let's talk about the quarterback. You quarterback. I want you to evaluate what you've seen. We haven't seen much of the young guys, right? But in a game like this, you better see a lot of them. What have you seen from, in limited time, a Jake Merklinger and or a George McIntyre this year, and what are you looking forward to seeing those guys do in a game like today?
Right. I think I've seen more of Jake than George. I mean, just like everybody else. But when you look at Jake, you see a really good football player. I see one with a lot of potential. He's not as, I guess you could say, as highly touted or highly talented than a lot of guys, but I think it's somebody that really does fit in this offense really well. And he had a huge spring, right? I remember reports coming out of spring how well he's been playing and how well he's been doing. So it'll be super interesting watching him operate the offense. Of course, he hasn't gotten a ton of in-game reps, right? Just like George hasn't as well. But he's played well sparingly in the time that he's had, right? He's been able to move the ball up and down the field. He's still a young player, so he has a lot to continue getting better at. And I'm excited to see more. Hopefully, he's able to get a full quarter, maybe playing, maybe 2 or 3 drives full, being able to operate the offense, and it'll be good for him, right? We never know with these two guys if one will transfer or not, or what their outlook is going forward. If we'll go and get another grad transfer at quarterback, who knows? I don't think we should because of the talent that's in that room. And I mean, we're going to have to move forward sooner or later. But these guys, this is an opportunity for them to put out good tape if they would want to transfer. And what a way to do it when you have extensive time playing versus a team that's not so good. For George, I remember George being a highly touted recruit. And of course, everybody knows that he's a big kid. He's 6'6", probably trying to put a little bit more weight on. He's a little bit thinner, a little bit thinner frame, but he's a bigger arm kid. And I'm excited to see him. I haven't seen any of him at all, really. I've seen Jake again last year and this year a little bit sparingly, but it'll be nice to see George in real college action. I know he played a tad bit this season, but being able to see him go on some drives and get some reps will be fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, nobody can predict the future, but like it feels like, everybody, like fans are just kind of assuming that like Merklinger's going to hit the portal. And I think that's unfair a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I'm just saying like it's unfair just to, pin somebody as a portal guy before the season's even over. A lot of people are excited about George McIntyre, but the fact of the matter is it's like, okay, you got Faison coming in. Who knows what they do in the portal, but like, it's typical. You lose a quarterback pretty much every year. You lose somebody at your position, and everybody's just kind of, pointed to Jake Merklinger and said that's going to be the guy. George has so much upside. You're exactly right. He's got to gain some weight. Nico gained significant. It didn't look like it, but Nico gained significant weight from when he got to campus weighing like 185 to when he was playing at like a 210. Still could have put on a lot more, but similar body types, Nico and George, and he's got to put on some weight, but he's got really good escapability. And I make this comparison all the time, and please speak on just the challenges. And I know it's different from college where you did it to, high school where George did it. But George, I want to say, had 4 different offenses all 4 years of high school. And he still put up a lot of big numbers. But I mean, just kind of going through those trials and tribulations, I only feel like it's going to help him down the road to pick up things quicker, different verbiage, different tendencies. Like he had that experience in high school, and it's not the same thing as college, but you went through that, at the SEC level. It's very challenging, but I feel like it made you better in the end.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to me if I would be able to ask him, or I could really get the question figured out, if the head coach was an offensive guy or if he was running the same style offense all 4 years. I think that's the biggest thing. And if not, it's probably good for his football knowledge that he was able to capture some of these different offenses and schemes and terminology just for his sake of learning more ball. But from the high school standpoint, it's probably, like you said, it's probably a little bit easier because you're not really seeing various coverages. You're not seeing 3 down, 4 down, different pressures, all those different things versus an offense that you might not know as well. So it's good for him. I think that being able to hear more coaches and their thought processes and understanding maybe what they're looking for and kind of forming your own thoughts about that certain situation or thoughts about that certain play, it's a good thing. So I'm excited. And like you said before, with quarterbacks, who knows, right? You have a really talented kid coming in with Faison. You also have a young quarterback room. So from the standpoint of whoever winds up playing from that young quarterback room will probably be the starter going forward. Not if they do continue to play well, right? How do you dethrone a sophomore that's in there and he's putting up a lot of big stats and he's playing super well for a kid that's a grade younger that might have more potential, right? And we've seen that one case, and the biggest case is probably Jalen Hurts and Tua, right? Jalen Hurts was in there and he was the SEC Player of the Year, playing great football, and they just said they thought Tua was better. So I guess it could happen. So I mean, I also could see the standpoint of the guy saying, we still have young guys. If Jake was to go in the portal after the season, we have some young guys. Let's go try to get another senior. And if I was a senior quarterback, or I guess a graduating junior, and I was looking to transfer, how do you not look at Tennessee as one of the best places in the country, judging off of what Joey was able to do in this year and also with the players that are coming back from the offensive line, wide receivers, and running back room. So I think there's a lot on the table for Tennessee. And the fact that they're having a season like this with a guy that came to school in late May, it'll be very attractive for recruits, and it'll be very attractive for guys trying to come out of the transfer portal to our university.
Yeah, you kind of spoke on it right there, and you spoke on it earlier as well. I think it's a legit conversation that every team, not just Tennessee, but kind of has to have right now. Like, in this era of resources and rev share and NIL, and Tennessee's done a great job recruiting the quarterback position, right? I mean, George was a good get. Faison's a great get. Nico at the time was the number 1 player in the country. Okay, so Tennessee's recruited that position very well, put a lot of resources into it. Are you better served for, getting a good quarterback, a solid quarterback, rankings-wise, a Jake Merklinger type guy, which is kind of like a translation into a Marcel Reed type guy at Texas A&M. I think Marcel Reed might have been ranked a little higher, but they were both like top 15 to 17 quarterbacks-ish, both 4 stars.
Right.
And building around those guys. Or is it worth more going out and getting a big quarterback in the transfer portal and not necessarily going all in on the Faison and the Nico types? I think it's an interesting conversation because you can look around the country. Ty Simpson's homegrown. Marcel Reed's homegrown. They're having tons of success. Last year, your Heisman Trophy winner was a transfer. Ohio State, your national championship winning quarterback, was a transfer. You had all these different transfers all over the place.
Right.
I think it just kind of depends on who you are, but I think it's a legit conversation that Tennessee and everybody's got to have right now, because going out and getting a 1-year rental or a 2-year guy from the portal, a veteran guy that's played a whole lot of football, I think it makes a whole lot of sense.
Right. And when you have a younger quarterback room, that's your outlook. And I think that's the reason that we went to go do this. I don't think it was shade towards Jake or George. I think it was just younger guys and us not knowing the future and how well they're going to play. Just having another guy step in the room. And Tennessee also did the same thing when I was going to be a sophomore, right? With a new coaching staff, they didn't know what they were going to get out of me. So they went and signed probably one of the best quarterbacks in the portal with Keller Christ. And I think in hindsight, it was a really smart move, right? We didn't know how I was going to play my sophomore year. I thought my sophomore year turned out to be a pretty good season from my standpoint when you look at it statistically and some of the things we were able to do. But it's not a bad thought. And when you're talking about all these recruits and everything, I think it is imperative that we harp on getting really good players around the quarterback, right? Whether it's getting really good running back, getting a really good offensive line, wide receivers. I mean, we already have that room already kind of full right now with talent. So just being able to sit there and kind of mold the team around it and understanding, like Gunnar Stockton right now, he's playing really good football. I mean, he was, I think, a top 10 recruit coming out, but he wasn't anything. He wasn't a top 2 or 3. He wasn't a super, super highly talented guy. And they're sitting there in a prime position to be able to make that playoff berth run. So, and just like Ty Simpson, he's a guy that kind of sat there and stayed and he trusted the process, which I have a lot of respect for. He's another one that's grown through Alabama, even through coaching staff changes and things like that. So I think it's really good. You also have to understand your cast of characters and who you have in the room. Maybe these guys aren't thinking longer down the road. Maybe they're thinking right now, want to play right now. So just kind of getting a feel for what the quarterback room needs and what the guys need. I think it's super smart for younger guys to see an older guy come in and kind of take the lumps and go through the offense and kind of have success and ups and downs so they can understand what it's like to play in the SEC game. And, there's just positives and negatives to both sides, right? Of course, the younger guys want to play. But at the time, it's also really beneficial to have an older guy kind of teach them.
Yeah, or you could do the Lane Kiffin route and just go and stack quarterbacks on top of quarterbacks on top of quarterbacks.
And just whatever one's the best is the best, right?
And I mean, look, you're in a great spot. Austin Simmons was the starter. Nobody was ever debating that. Austin Simmons did not play well, and then I don't know if he got hurt or not, but whatever. Trinidad Chambliss came in from Ferris State. And I remember when he signed with Lane, I'm just like, what are you doing, man? Like, why are you going there? You ain't going to play. Well, here you go. You're playing. Just stack on stack on stack quarterbacks because you never know what's going to happen. I just think it's I think that's probably not for today's podcast, even though we're having it. I think it's just a really interesting conversation, kind of where college football is right now, because no matter what, you have to have a quarterback. You can't not have a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win at a high level, in my opinion. So
even like you said, like a team like that went and got, say, a really good quarterback that could be a backup. I mean, Kentucky tried it, right? And so did Auburn. They went to go get different guys that were starters at other places and said, if they lose a job, they'll just be really good backups. So that's not far-fetched either, right? And obviously, if you go look at a lower Division I kid that played really good season, sitting here saying, like, we don't know what your NFL future is, but you can come make 600, 700, 800, whatever the number is, 1,000 to come be a possible starting quarterback, if not a backup here, and also learn a really good offense. So there's a lot of positives played with the money. And like you said, being able to stack quarterbacks and just in case something does go wrong, being able to have an outlet like Ole Miss kind of does, and they've really found a gold mine with Chambliss, it might be a smart thing to do. But like you said, we can talk about this for hours and hours and hours and go through all the depth charts.
Mike Van Buren, not the 8th president of the United States, but the former freshman. Is it Michael? I don't know. Anyway, Van Buren, former true freshman starting quarterback last year at Mississippi State when Blake Shapen got hurt. He went to LSU to sit behind, one of the presumed. I'm a big Garrett Nussmeier fan. He's obviously hurt. He's not had a good year. I'm a big Nussmeier fan. He went to go sit. He just went to go sit because he knew, like, hey, he's obviously going to the NFL next year. Like, I can be the guy at LSU. He's being compensated well. Obviously, LSU's in a bit of turmoil right now, head coaching change and all that. But it's different when you think about that from each program.
It's easier to sit when you're making a lot of money, right? Then the guys aren't itching by the bit a little bit. And I mean, their bank account's saying one thing and they're not playing and they're able to learn. I would probably take a big, deep breath too.
No doubt. All right. I want your scouts. We talk about Joey Aguilar every week, but from a what's next in his career standpoint, he's obviously would love to go to the NFL. I don't know if that's a possibility for him because he's 24 years old, but it might be. Who knows? Also, you've made the rounds and you played a lot of football post college and some different leagues out there. There's the XFL and I think there's a USFL still playing and all that. Like, what is his makeup and when you see him right now, like what do you think are some possibilities for Joey Aguilar, who mentioned earlier this week, like, hey, I would like to keep playing football. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, then, I'll move on.
Yeah, I think when you look at Joey, I see a day 3 late draft pick. I think maybe if a team really likes him and finds a really sweet home for him, he's like a 6th, 7th rounder. It's going to be a weird draft class just because we don't really know how the teams are going to draft, right? You got big time guys, I guess Ty Simpson, you got Fernando Mendoza, who knows if Dante Moore, who knows if any of those guys come out, right? So you're looking at these guys and you're like, are these guys going to be first rounders? Is it going to be like my draft class where the first guy wasn't picked outside Kenny Pickett, wasn't picked until the 3rd round, 4th round? So it'll be a different draft class. And a lot of the class, unfortunately, didn't pan out to what everybody thought it was going to be, right? It was supposed to be a really, really big class with Nussmeier and other guys that we kind of scheduled for really good seasons, even Sellers, and we thought Lagway was going to be awesome, Arch Manning. Some of these guys aren't draft eligible. But for Joey's perspective, I do think he possesses a really good poise about him, really good confidence. You can see that he makes all the throws. He pushes the ball down the field. He does throw the ball accurately throughout the field. You also understand he went into an offense in May, right? That just kind of judges off of his football knowledge and football character and ability. He came into an offense and a team at the end of May and kind of put it on his shoulders and was able to absorb all that information and go out there and play good football. So I think that he will have an opportunity. Of course, he just has to find the right opportunity, and that's the biggest thing with the NFL. It's not as much about can you play, it's about finding an organization that's stable, that believes in you, that wants to sit there and grow you and thinks that you are a good football player, right? And like my situation, I felt like I had that, and I signed a multiple-year deal, and unfortunately the coaches had gotten fired a couple weeks later. So it's about a little bit of luck. It's about a little bit of timing. I do think that he can play in the NFL, and obviously he is a smart guy, and that's what they're looking for in backups, somebody that can step foot in there and just go make some plays and be able to run the offense. So we've seen that from his capability this season, and with some luck and with some things going his way, I do think that he can be a long-time backup in the NFL.
Yeah, he is without a doubt, at minimum, a guy that I think is going to be playing in NFL preseason games.
For sure,
summer.
for sure.
For
sure.
sure.
I do think that he will have opportunities as such that, and when you look at him, he's not a smaller guy either. You're not sitting there like, he's 6 foot, he's 6'1". He is a 6'3", 225, 230-pound kid that has the physical makeup to be able to take the hits and do the things that you need to do in the NFL. So I think he has a real opportunity, and I'm obviously rooting for him because I'm a big fan and I've watched every game, and I do think that he's a really good football player.
Look at one of the last questions I want to ask you. Homecoming, and I know you've had a bit of a homecoming. You came back for the Alabama game last year, and then of course you were here for the Oklahoma game. So, but it is homecoming this week on Rocky Top. In your experiences, what's that weekend like? What's the atmosphere like? Is there anything else that kind of comes with that? From a player standpoint.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful day. I mean, of course, mine was during COVID, so it didn't have that same feeling to it. But all the other ones that I've seen, and being able to see the reception of like a Juwan Jennings and the reception of Darryl Taylor or guys that stayed to their senior year or whatever that may be, having to see that and how much the fans really love and enjoyed them, it's awesome to see. And just being able to take it all in and feeling that love. I know obviously we have another home game, which is kind of different, kind of weird, but just being able to see all the old guys come back and being able to talk to some of the alumni and those things, it's really special seeing all the old faces and just kind of taking in all of what Vol Nation has done for you.
I think it's kind of weird. Like, I feel like a lot of the big game home Saturdays are like homecomings anyway, because like so many guys
Naturally, right?
Yeah, they just come back all the time, and they show them on the jumbotron. They showed you on the jumbotron last week. Like we see those guys come back all the time, which is great. Like, I'm not saying it's, but I feel like it's almost like a homecoming couple different times a year.
Especially when you're winning, right? It's so much easier for guys to come back and sit there and say, like, you know what, let's go to a game, let's go do this. And they've been great football games. There's been ranked opponents. There's been us being ranked super high, and seeing, I mean, the one time that I came back this year, seeing all the guys that I played with or seeing guys before, I was amazed that many people were coming back. And that, for a recruit, that should be another plus, right? Another positive, sitting there saying that you're able to go back to your university and being able to have that much love when you're going back. And I had a great time. And from the players playing right now, it should be cool being able to see all these big time players come back. Not saying myself, not even close, but like an Al Wilson or T. Martin or whoever wants to come back, Peyton Manning, those type of guys. Heath Schuler is always around. I marvel at that type of stuff.
Yeah, well, if you ever don the orange and white, homecoming or just whenever you want, if you ever want to come back, I think that's your birthright at that point. You put in the blood, sweat, and tears and all that. So I think it's always so cool to see people of, from the 80s or the 90s or the 2000s, names I've never even heard of that might have just been, walk-ons or just backups or whatever, still coming back. I mean, I just think that is so cool. Who were some of the guys? Who were some of your former teammates that you saw when you were in town?
I was Darren Kirkland, Cortez Sapp, Khalil McKenzie. I know Todd Kelly's always around, right? He's born and raised Knoxville. Who else did I see? I was trying to see Daniel Batuli. He was a really great linebacker when I was there. I saw Dane Davis. I saw JT Shrout came around. There were so many faces. I'm probably missing like 10 to 15 of them just off the top of my head. But I think Cooper Mays was around, all these guys. And it's awesome to see the guys after football, because no matter what the memories were, no matter how bad or good, whatever it is, these guys were still your guys in the locker room. And you still shared blood, sweat, and tears and much love for them. So it's always nice seeing the faces and getting the big hugs and just talking about how life is and reminiscing of the good days, the good old days.
Yeah, you mentioned Dane Davis. Big fan of Dane Davis. Always has. He was always good to me. Just recently got engaged. So congrats to him. You said his name. Like, holy crap, he did play with you. Like, he was here forever.
Doesn't it? Oh my gosh, doesn't it? And I was like, I go back and I'm like, oh man, it feels like I haven't been. It's only been 5 years, and that's why I trip out a little bit. I'm like, some of the guys, who's on the team.
Cooper was on the team with you.
Cooper was on the team. I think that was my senior year.
Yeah.
One of our defensive tackles, I think from Maryland, right now playing, was on the team as well.
Dominic Bailey.
Bailey was on the team. Bailey was a young guy when I was there. So being able to see his face and seeing that he's a little bit older, I'm not a little bit, a lot older, it makes me kind of feel a little bit old.
Yeah.
But seeing some guys like that, and he's having a great season, and I'm super proud of him because I remember when he was a younger guy and he came in working really hard. And it's just awesome to see, right? And all these guys donned the same colors that I did and wore the same power tee that I did. So it's always amazing. And I'm viewing it from more of an older perspective now, but it's always amazing seeing guys grow up right before your eyes.
Without looking it up, he might be in his 5th year. I think he's in his 6th year.
He might be.
Did Bryson Eason play with you as well?
Bryson Eason did, yes. Bryson was a young guy
Don
too.
Bailey, Bryson Eason, and William Wright, I believe, was on that team too.
Yes.
So, man, it's just a testament to where college football is. It's amazing.
It's almost done. The COVID 6 years almost gone.
Yes. But I mean, hey, like coaches are like Rick Barnes, like talking basketball here. It's like, I mean, he obviously goes out and gets Nate and he signs these guys, but he retools his roster with transfers because it's like, have you ever seen that movie Draft Day with what's his name and the coach in there is like, I don't like rookie quarterbacks. I can't win with rookie quarterbacks. It's like, give me all the veterans. That's what Rick Barnes does. But I mean, coaches are like, yeah, you can stay for a 6 year. Come on down. Like that's awesome.
No, and especially basketball, right? These guys are losing guys 1-2 years. There's no restrictions on that. So
yeah,
basketball, they have to restock every year.
Yeah. And what I think is also kind of on this note, then we'll wrap it up. Like, for you and for JT and everybody has their own story. I mean, my definition of a VFL is you played here, especially if you graduated here, you're a VFL. Like, that's my thing. But, like, you finished somewhere else. You took advantage of the COVID year. It was unique circumstances to finish somewhere else. JT finished somewhere else, but you come back. Like, and I know you guys loved your other stops, and I'm not saying you didn't, but, like this is home. I think that's and there's countless other examples. I just think that's like Kyle Booker, former Tennessee baseball player, went and finished his career with Oral Roberts and, was back here the other day. Like, it's just a special place, man.
I always get a kick, and this is not shade or anything, but fans that use the term VFL and might have not even went to Tennessee, maybe are just from the state, and they're saying, I mean, I used to get a lot, but you're not a VFL, you're not this, you're not that. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know if you remember every hit, every broken bone, everything that I went through, but I think my 4 years and my degree, I think you can consider me a VFL. But that was I didn't type it out. Those are just my insane thoughts. But yeah, I've always viewed myself as that. I always knew how much I loved the university, and if nobody thinks that I am, so be it. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but those 4 or 5 years that I spent in Knoxville to this day are still some of the best years of my life. And no matter if it was ups and downs, craziness or not, bad DMs, whatever I went through, I still have so much love for it. And